That's interesting how the black and white shows the color value as opposed to, you can't tell it with the color photos so much.
You're
I can't.
so into seeing what the colors are that you no longer pay attention to the values.
Right.
And so having a black and white version of whatever you're working with is a really good way to see what the values are going to be. And so I wanted to print that to see. And this with the value card, I mean, I can do this with the value card and force myself to see this, that we're really down in about value 3, about that value with that background. It's really not very dark at all. And then we can clearly see that when we get in with the black and white, sort of where that's at. And so it's in between these two values, between the light and the dark part of it. And then the cat, of course, is the darkest part is black. And even on that back, it's up in this value 7 and 8. So let's go ahead and get this traced on here. I like to use a ballpoint pen when I'm doing this tracing because it's got a little a smaller hard surface. And
red ballpoint because then I can see it.
oh, what a good idea. Yeah.
Because
Then you know where you're being.
trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had trouble with the glasses.
Right, and being able to actually see where you've been with it. And so this is the graphite transfer paper. Graphite transfer paper. It's available at the art store in a box that looks like plastic wrap, but it's graphite transfer paper.
Graphite transfer system.
Yeah. And then my image here, I'm thinking that maybe I want to pull the cat into the picture just a little bit. So I'm going to leave a little more space on this back side than the front side of this. And I'm going to live dangerously and not tape this together. If you're at all worried about it shifting, tape it. Don't do what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about the top line up here. That's the other part of there's a window shade coming down, but I do like this window here. So I'm going to draw this and I'm running my finger along the edge. I have one finger along the edge of the block while I'm doing this, because then I can do a really nice steady line. And this has got a little perspective to it. So the window frame is bigger, closer to the cat than it is further away. There's a block of wood there that we're going to ignore, and I'm gonna just keep that line going right through there. Okay, now the cat, let's see. Let me get the rest of this window back here. And that's the bottom. I guess we need the top of this edge as well. Oops. Try and get it straight, Margaret. I know it's hard. Angled. And now the cat. So there's some fur line back here, and I'm going to go ahead and show that. Let me make sure this is showing through. Ah, yes, it is. Okay. Reminding myself that there's a little bit of fur line there. Now I could also draw on here where the light changes. Let's see here. Let me just finish getting the outside of this, and then I'll show you what I mean by the light change.
How many times can you use that graphite paper?
Until you can't. A number of times. I don't have any, no, it's not a one-time only. I'll show you after I finish with this. You can look at it and see that I've drawn on it before. What happens is that each time you draw on it, it loses some of the graphite.
Sure.
And so it does get to a point where it's going to make it really uneven when you go to draw on here. But you can sort of see when it's got to that point. I've been using this for a couple of years now. So I haven't bought any new for a couple of years. So I've used it off and on over the last couple of years.
That one sheet?
This one sheet,
Wow.
yeah. I have 3 or 4 sheets in here. Let you guys use them.
I bought a roll. I bought a roll of that.
Oh,
You can
really?
Buy it by the roll and then just.
I like that. That's nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
this
where do
was
you buy
all-
that? Like Blick
I
or something?
go online.
Oh, you went online.
But Blick has it.
They have it.
But watch out because they have it in several colors. So you want to make sure you get the gray graphite. not
Right.
The white or the,
Red,
There's blue.
Oh,
do the
really?
blue.
Okay.
yeah.
Put this cat's eyes in here. Those are pretty important. And her nose. So I can see a little bit of light on the edge of her features here. And that's part of what I'm drawing right now. And then the other light area, let's see, I haven't drawn the edge, this front edge of her either, have I? And where's my other photograph? Seeing what her feet do down here. So she's gonna have a foot that comes out, makes a little turn like that. And I think this is her other foot right there. And then there's some of her body here and the foot comes back and then the body's gonna come around sort of like that until we find her tail back there. That looks fairly good. And there's a windowsill down here that she's sitting on that once again is going to be fatter in this corner and get a little narrower as it goes up into there. Now, I can see some light on her back right here and a little bit up here on her head. So I could draw a line on the edge of that so I know where I'm going to be stopping with my real dark when I get to putting it in. And then you can see across her tail here. So it's sort of an uneven line running down through there. Have I gotten everything?
You got her collar.
Her collar, yeah, there's a break right there. And then she has a little name tag running down, little bell. And I can't really see any of the rest of her collar very well. So I'm not going to worry about the rest of that. You can see in this photograph here, there's just a little bit of the collar visible right there. Okay, Kitty, have we gotten you? We got you, girl? Take that all the way up.
What's her name?
Raven.
Raven. Very apropos.
Yes. So Raven knows she belongs to the entire household, upstairs and downstairs. Officially, she belongs downstairs, but she spends half her time upstairs.
She's the house.
She's the house cat. She's the house cat. Okay, so now we've got house cat. Now, because she's going to be really dark, I don't have to mask her out. Where what Betsy's doing on her piece, she's going to have some lighter stuff in here. And so I'm suggesting she mask out that lighter stuff. Now, what I could mask if I wanted to was the edge of this window, but I think I'm going to even not do that and just sort of paint up to it because that's a fairly easy paint to area. And then we're going to do a really loose wash in the back here to get this feeling of, and we could turn all of this into greenery and not have this house back here. And do this combination, these different shades of green and blue and brown in the back, just a very loose wash area back there. So this is going to be what we call wet and wet, similar to what I had you do with the color wash before. But instead of doing it sort of in layers, we're going to drop colors into it. So
How would you mask it out? By using tape or what?
masking fluid. I could use tape too. These windows are, because they're straight, that would be very easy to do tape with.
Okay.
But something that's not so straight, the masking fluid. This is one brand. And we'll just put
Is
it
that
up
like
here.
what you did with the relief? That what you used when you did that relief of the cactus?
Yes, this is exactly how I did it with the cactus. Yeah, same idea.
I missed that session. That was a week before I came, so.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you might have missed the one day that we did that, the very first day of that. That's right, you were one day late starting the class. And that was what we did the very first day, was to paint that masking fluid on.
Sure.
So this is a latex product. And so it's like liquid latex. And you can paint it with a brush, you can paint it with little sticks. And once it dries, it's waterproof, but it can be peeled back off. So you put it on to hold places that you want to keep white.
Right.
But we're not going to need to use it for her because, but I do like the idea of, let's do the tape on the window. Yes, no. Yeah, I will, because then I can get really loose with the rest of that. So let me just do some tape. I have to be a little bit careful with this because there's one thing that, this may or may not work. And the reason I say that is that I don't want a hard line across her. I don't want a hard line across her where, because I'm going to need to bring that paint down and into her when I do that background, so I don't get a hard line across her body. That can be hard there. And actually, you know, decisions. I can leave certain things wet and other things dry. So you need to be a little bit cautious here.
All
All right. And if I'm going to do tape, I have to be sure those edges are nice and tight down onto my paper, because I don't want the paint coming in underneath of there. Those you that have been helping with the mural out in the backyard understand that entirely. So I'm going to take a pair of scissors here and cut her shape right there. And let's do the same thing here. And then we're going to take this tape across for the windowsill here. All right, that's ready. Now, let's get, before I can paint, I have to decide what colors I'm going to use in there and mix up some. So I've got it ready to work with. This is my stir fry. Got to have everything ready before I put the hot oil in. Got to have everything ready before I wet this page. And so what colors are we going to be putting in here? I need a nice bright yellowy green. I need a darker green. I need blue. I need a brown and maybe maybe a little orange. Okay. So let's see what we've got going here. I have some dirty pan here left from previous painting. Let's turn one of those into a little bit darker green here. Put some Hooker's green in with ultramarine blue. So that's going to make a nice darker green. And then let's get a mid green, which might be just sap green by itself. It's not a huge area that we're painting, so I don't need to have piles and piles of paint. But I need enough. And how well can you guys see this? Oh, good. Shows nicely. I have another beautiful light green here from Holbein called leaf green. Put it in with just a little bit of dirty pan there. Very light yellowy green. And then there's a little bit of a reddish brown up here. Let me wet it and see if it's really what I think it is. And I think I'm going to add a little yellow to that. Let's see, New Gamboge to it. Make a little more of a yellowy brown. And then I need a neutral gray brown. So I'm just dirty brush. It's okay if I bring it in there. Ultramarine blue again. And burnt sienna. And hopefully I have enough of all these colors. Oh, and then we need a blue, don't we? We can just do the blue straight out of the blue thing. So let's just get that wet.
What blue is that?
Cobalt blue.
Oh, cool.
I just cleaned the top of that.
Sure.
Now, I've got a pan of clean water here. We're going to wet this whole area above the tape here and down onto this lower area there. Because even those light areas on the cat are darker than that background, I can paint right over them. And I gotta see if I've got any dry spots.
So what's the reason for wetting the whole thing?
The reason for wetting the whole thing is that then the paint's gonna move quicker and easier and faster on there. So things will blend together more. And what I'm wanting to get is really this look, not this over here, where we've got a very soft look. And that picture that Betsy had really showed that we want sort of a soft blend between the different colors. And so if I pre-wet this, then it's going to move easier. I'm going to leave this laying fairly flat because I've got this quite wet and I want it to stay wet throughout that area. So let's just see what's going to happen here. So as I put on colors, see how it moves out into that wet quite a bit. I'm just going to sort of plop some colors around in here, sort of dropping them in. Of course, I'm going to be very tempted to make that a big brown space, and it's not necessarily what we want. So if I set these colors just sort of side by side, see how they just move into each other a little bit. I also have to be careful that maybe I don't overdo, what do I want to say? If I have this too wet, it's going to move really fast and it's going to, what do I want to say? If it's not wet enough, I won't get really sweet blends. If it's too wet, it's all just going to go into each other and turn into one color. And so there is sort of a nice little edge between what's perfect and what's not. I have some blue up in here for blue sky. Just plain I don't know if any of you guys watched, Emily Weil did an abstract demo for our monthly artist demo. And she just did this little careful putting paint on, and then she started scraping things off and start throwing more things on it. This
Why
is
are you
all gonna-
stroking those instead of the dotting them?
Because I want it to look more like branches.
Oh, okay.
So just trying to get some sort of textural look to that. And now if I feel like this is too dark, and I want it to spread more, I can take a spray bottle to it, add a little water into there, make that spread even a little bit more, maybe make it a little lighter. I can also make it blend more by turning it like this. Let's see, we should maybe some more darker green up here. And it's starting to dry right over there, so we get a little more water on there.
What about using the plastic wrap for that background?
Oh, what a nice idea. Let me see if I got some up here. That's another way to deal with it. Yeah, that would also give that a sort of a very soft look, and I'm gonna bring just a little more, actually go a little more down into here. And so I'm not worried about the fact that it's sort of moving into the cap. Oh, and let's see, let's just go ahead and get some of this color in here. Yeah, that's, it definitely needed that. Need a little bit of that color. I just didn't want any hard lines in here where the cat is, because those lines will show later. So I want everything really soft. I can barely see my lines of that cat. And then, you know, maybe we don't want this as green. Okay, so plastic wrap. Scrunch it, get it wrinkly, set it down. That's sort of interesting. Of course, this means the demo's over as soon as I put this on.
Yeah, I know.
You guys wanted me to stop, didn't you?
You can also, sometimes I tape the reference photo and then just fold it back under. If I need to go back and create another line, I just bring it back over.
Ah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
You gotta be pretty careful of it.
Where you taped it. Yeah, well, and I might be able to find, I'll be able to find it to line it up. Okay, so I'm done for right now. And you know, you wouldn't have to do this surround wrap thing in the back. I've got some in there if anybody else wants to play with it. It's gonna make more hard marks in there. So like the photograph that you have, Betsy, I don't think you're gonna want to use the saran wrap in there because it's gonna make harder. It's gonna make harder texture marks where, you know, without this, even if I pulled it off now, I wouldn't get as hard a texture marks, but I get darker spaces. So I did sort of like those texture marks. So let's just put this back on. As long as it's still wet, this works. As soon as it starts drying, this isn't going to do anything for us. But you can see what happens if you take it off too soon. It all just sort of blends back in there. Okay, so.
Okay, I need a review for
Okay. Let me stop this recording. Let's see.